Greetings and welcome to Tuning Tuesdays, where I choose a car I haven't driven before or haven't tuned to a specific class before, and show how my tuning process goes from start to finish. And today we're having a go at the Acura NSX. Or Honda NSX, as it would also be. I haven't driven this car before. To some degree, I have always wondered how it would be to tune this car. So today we're gonna find out. It's already S1, so I don't see why we can't keep it within that class. Let's see what we have of options. We can make it rear-wheel drive, shaving some weight. We don't want to do that. It's already all-wheel drive. Yeah, it's already all-wheel drive, which gives us a great stability and high acceleration. Do we want some aero parts to make it grippier? We could also just remove the wing, have a more clean look, but I don't think that would work. Some people don't really like the Forza aero parts, but on most track cars there are a necessity if you're going really fast and have and need to have a lot of downforce. On some cars they may not be the prettiest, but if you have a full-on race car, what does looks matter anyway? Okay, moving on to wheels. What do we have of options? Let's put some race tires on, making sure we have as much grip as possible. Wider wheels, front and back, and let's widen the wheel track also. We can put lighter wheels on later. That's not something we would bother with now. Okay, moving on to drivetrain, new clutch, race transmission, race driveline, and race differential. And within the springs and dampers department, we have multiple possibilities here. We can take the drift suspension and dampers. I've noticed the drift spring and dampers have a much harder configuration than the race springs and dampers. We can also do the rally springs, making it a bit higher off the ground, but this is not a rally car. So let's go with the race. Do we want a roll cage? It improves the weight distribution, not at all, but it adds 26 kilos. So I think we'll drop the weight instead. Okay, what's our top speed? 305. We can tune the top speed later. We have a pretty good acceleration actually. Let's take the middle one and do some engine tuning. The very first thing is I look at cam and valves. This increases the engine RPMs and thus increases our top speed. So we just went from a 305 to a 327. So a 22 kilometers per hour increase in top speed. And we can also adjust the top speed in the more advanced tuning section. But where does this leave us? We go to S2. Okay, that means we either have to get rid of some put on some more weight, or we need to reduce the power output. But seeing as we have a pretty good top speed, I'd rather put some on some extra weight. So let's do that. Maybe we can find some wheels that are... Yeah, see, we put on 7 more kilos and we're already down to 901 instead of 902. Can we find wheels heavier than this? 22. We're still under 1600 kilograms. Or roughly 3,200 pounds. Let's see what else. 22. I might have an idea. If you take the wheels at plus 15 kilos and just make them slightly bigger, will that... Ah, that will do. So instead of going up to 1590 kilograms, we stay put at 1581 kilograms. That saves us a couple of kilos. Is there more we can do? We can actually get downforce. It'll increase our weight a bit more. And what about our lateral G's from 120? We can try to see what impact it does at a later point. It all has to do with stability. Let's install the setup. Let's get out and test drive it before we do anything else. Okay. As you would expect, it pulls extremely well, accelerating very quickly, but we do need to give it a bit more grip. It's already Pretty gribby, I must say, which is rather nice. Let's quickly test it out on our test track, just to see what kind of lap times it can do. Okay, and it's an S1 tune we've got going here. Okay, let's see what kind of lap times we can do before even getting to the fun part. I don't think we can reach a below 1 minute in the first run. Whoop. It slides a lot when applying power. That might be because we don't have enough downforce. As you remember, we can put on the wing afterwards and still maintain our S1 class rating. Yes, it is very, very slidey. Okay. That was not half bad. Let's see what we can do with lap number 2. Oop, slidey. Let's go. Oh, remember to change gears. I recently switched to a manual transmission or manual shifting just to challenge myself a bit more. Okay, let's see what we get. A 58.3 second. Okay. Let's restart the event, go out and try to see what how much time we can remove from this. Okay, we get into tires and we have the standard tire pressure. Let's lower that ever so slightly. I usually like to get it right at the first increment of the higher pressure. Okay, let's have it at 1.6 as a start. That gives us a bit more grip, a bit better acceleration. Gearing. Okay, let's see what we can do here. The performance numbers on the right side is a pretty good indicator of what the car is capable of. So let's try to make the gears a little bit longer by adjusting the final drive. Okay, that was worse. Still worse. Did we already have the perfect acceleration and... Ooh, no, look at that. The top speed is still limited to 326 kilometers per hour. What are we at? We are at 272. Oh, there we go. 267. Let's remember that number and look at how this compares. Yeah, we actually got... Never mind, let's just leave it there. It apparently can't get any better. Okay, so camber and tow is actually two things that can have a lot of influence on your driving. And we had a lot of sliding from side to side in our case. So we might decrease the camber ever so slightly from minus 1.5 to around 1. And the front, let's decrease that by 0.2. Something that I experienced helps with stability is the toe on the rear wheels. On most of the cars I've tuned to a specific class with all-wheel drive has had great benefits just by giving it a negative 0.2 degrees of toe in the rear. And to give it a bit sharper turn in, I usually set the toe in front to plus 0.2 degrees. And the front caster, I usually have that around 6 degrees. Okay, anti-roll bars. Yes, seeing as the car is mid-engine, the rear would have a bit stiffer, but I think this is probably a bit too much. Let's stiffen up the front to around 32. Yeah, that's good enough. That will probably help with some of the oversteer we are experiencing. And the same goes with the springs. We'll just give them up to around 75. Yeah, and let's lower the car even more. Dampening. In dampening, I usually like my front stiffer and my rear a bit softer, so why don't we set the front at 13 and set the rear at 11. And with bump stiffness, the rear is at 6.2, let's lower that to 6.0 and set the front to 7.2. Okay, and we have no downforce parts where we can actually adjust the downforce, so it'll just have to be like this. The brakes, I usually don't touch it. I usually don't see a great effect when I touch it. So we'll just skip past that. And now the differential. What I usually do with a high power car, I want to have more grip and more stability, and that has 4-wheel drive. I usually set the front acceleration and deceleration to 0%. That way the wheels will still help with acceleration and with cornering. I have always found that in the differential, if the acceleration and the deceleration is set to 0, this gives a lot more grip in the front and does not promote as much understeer as if you had, like the standard set, 50% or even 100%. It might make it, the car might be more manageable if we're talking off-road or rally cars, but in this case, when it's a track car, it doesn't do much. I usually set the deceleration on both the front and rear at a 0. That way when you lift the throttle in corners, it might grip a bit more. We're just going to start at 50% on the rear on accelerating, just to make sure we have a lot more grip. The differential front to rear is already at 84%. So let's see what happens if we reduce it to 80. Oh, did you just see our acceleration drop like half a second? Look at the 0 to 161 time. I go back to 84%. Okay, maybe not half a second. But 2/100ths of a second, both in 0 to 97 kilometers per hour and 0 to 161. So let's see what happens if we go even further. It goes up again. Okay, so that tells me the ideal setting here might be 81%. But if you're going with a more stable car, perhaps it will be lower, like 70 or 65 or 60. It really all depends on your driving style and a lot of other factors. Okay, let's apply our settings and see what we get. Let's go. Okay, so the grip is, in my opinion, instantly better. We can take the corners so much faster now. Okay, so in the first race we did, where we didn't tune it, I could get around this in, what was it, around a minute? Yeah, so now we're down to 59,555. So that's half a second gone just by doing some basic tuning, and that's a lot. Let's see how the second lap fares compared to the second lap last time. We were around 58 seconds, I believe. This might not be the case this time. A 58.6. Let's see. I know we hit the wall in the start. Let's see how it impacts our final time. A 58.2. Okay, let's take one more. Let's get a clean lap time, and we'll call it a day. With the tune we have now, most of the long sweeping corners we just went through, I can just, at the end of the corner, put down the throttle and not worry about oversteering. The little corrections we made with the toe really helped control the oversteer. So can we do a clean lap of 58.2? That's not bad. That's definitely not bad. Just by tuning it a little bit. I do believe we can get this under 58 seconds around this course. Possibly with some aero on and a bit more tuning. Because what we did just now was a very, very basic tune. If I had the time and if I was really enthusiastic about a car, I would sit down and I would test the car for a few rounds, then go back, change a few things, go out, test the car a few times, go back, test a few things, and just see what works. And that is probably the best thing that you can do. Well, I guess that is all the time we have for today. Subscribe and ring the bell to get notifications each time I upload. If you like the video, click the like button, and I'll see you all in the next one.